Take a deep breath with me, and let it go. Good. Tonight, we're going somewhere hidden. Somewhere warm. Somewhere that smells of beeswax and honey and old magic. A place where light is more than illumination, where candles are more than simple fire and wax, where an artisan works in patient solitude, crafting small miracles for those who know where to look. Tonight, we're visiting the Candlemaker's secret workshop. It's evening in the old quarter of the city. The kind of neighborhood where streets narrow and twist, where buildings lean toward each other conspiratorially, where time moves differently than it does in the bright, modern districts. Here, gas lamps still burn on corners. Here, shop signs hang from wrought iron brackets, creaking gently in the breeze. Here, you can still find craftspeople who practice arts that are slowly being forgotten by the world outside. You've been walking for a while now, following directions given to you by, who was it? A stranger in a bookshop? An elderly woman at the market? You can't quite remember. But the directions were specific. Down the street of 7 lanterns, left at the fountain with the sleeping cat, through the archway covered in ivy, and then look for the sign of the candle and the star. Your footsteps slow. You found it. The workshop is tucked into a building so old its stones seem to hold memories in their very substance. The door is narrow and painted deep blue, the color of the sky just after sunset, just before true night. Above it, hanging from an iron bracket, is the sign, a brass candle with a flame, and above the flame, a single star. Simple, elegant, unmistakable. The door has no hours posted. No indication of whether the shop is open or closed. But there's light visible through the small window beside it. Warm, golden light that flickers slightly, the unmistakable glow of candle flame rather than electric bulb. You reach for the handle, old brass, worn smooth by countless hands, warm to the touch despite the cool evening air. The door opens with a soft creak, not the harsh shriek of neglected hinges, but the gentle protest of well-oiled metal and wood that's simply old, that's earned the right to announce itself. And immediately, you're enveloped. By warmth. By scent. By something you can't quite name but that feels like welcome. Like recognition. Like you've been expected, even though you've never been here before, even though you're certain the Candlemaker doesn't know you're coming. You step inside. The door closes behind you, not with a slam but with a soft, definitive click. The outside world, the cobblestone street, the evening air, the distant sounds of the city, fades away. And in its place, the workshop. The first thing that strikes you is the smell. Beeswax, sweet and clean, like honey and meadows and summer afternoons distilled into scent. It's the dominant note, the foundation everything else builds upon. But there are layers beneath it. Subtle additions that reveal themselves slowly as your nose adjusts. Lavender, gentle and soothing, the scent of rest and calm. Rose, not the overwhelming perfume counter rose, but softer, more natural, like walking through a garden at dusk. Something citrus, bergamot, perhaps, bright and clarifying. Something woodsy, cedarwood or sandalwood, grounding and warm. And underneath it all, something else. Something harder to name. Something that smells like starlight, if starlight had a scent. Like magic, if magic could be inhaled. You stand just inside the door, letting your senses adjust, letting the workshop reveal itself to you gradually. The space is not large. Perhaps 20 feet square, with a ceiling that slopes upward toward the back, following the roofline of the ancient building. Every surface seems to be made of old, dark wood, the floors, the walls, the exposed beams overhead. Wood that's been here for centuries, that's absorbed years of candle making, years of scent and smoke and patient craft. The lighting is entirely candlelight. Dozens of candles, maybe hundreds, scattered throughout the space. On shelves. On the workbench. In wall sconces. On the floor in protected corners. Each one contributing its small flame to the collective glow, creating a light that's warm and alive, that moves and breathes, that makes shadows dance gently rather than lurk threateningly. And the candles, oh, the candles. They're everywhere, lining every shelf, covering every available surface. But these aren't ordinary candles from a department store. These are handcrafted works of art, each one unique, each one clearly made with attention and intention and something close to love. Some are simple tapers, tall and elegant, their wax smooth as silk. Some are pillars, squat and sturdy, their surfaces sometimes carved with delicate patterns, spirals and stars and symbols you don't quite recognize. Some are contained in glass jars, their flames protected, their light diffused through colored glass, amber and cobalt and deep emerald green. But what catches your attention most is the colors. Or rather, the way the colors shift. You blink, wondering if your eyes are playing tricks. But no, that pillar candle on the shelf to your left is definitely changing color. Its flame burns steady, but the light it casts shifts from soft gold to pale blue to lavender to rose and back to gold, cycling through the spectrum slowly, gently, like breathing. Another candle, a cluster of tapers bound together, flickers with colors that seem to respond to, what? The air currents in the room? The presence of observers? Its flames dance between green and silver and the palest yellow, never settling, always in motion. This is what you came for, though you didn't know it until this moment. This is why the workshop is secret, why it's tucked away in the old quarter, why you had to search to find it. Because what's made here isn't ordinary. Can't be ordinary. Shouldn't be ordinary. At the back of the workshop, bent over a wide wooden workbench, is the Candlemaker. They haven't acknowledged your entrance yet. They're completely absorbed in their work, their attention focused with a kind of intensity that comes from years of practice, from doing something so many times that the body knows the movements without the mind needing to direct them. The Candlemaker is neither young nor old, or perhaps they're both simultaneously, their age difficult to determine in the flickering light. Their hair is silver gray, pulled back from their face and tied loosely at the nape of their neck. They wear an apron over simple clothes. The apron is canvas, stained with wax in multiple colors, evidence of countless candles made, countless hours spent at this bench. Their hands move with absolute certainty, with grace, with the kind of practice skill that looks effortless but represents a lifetime of learning. Currently, they're working with wax. You can see a pot of it on a small burner, keeping it liquid, its surface shimmering in the candlelight. They lift a ladle, small, perfectly sized for their purpose, and pour molten wax into a mold. The wax flows like liquid gold, like honey, like light made viscous. It fills the mold slowly, finding its level, and even from where you stand you can see it's not ordinary wax. It seems to glow from within, seems to contain tiny sparks of light that swirl and dance within the golden liquid. The sound of the pouring is almost musical, a soft glug 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 that harmonizes with the quiet pops and crackles of the candles burning throughout the space, with the gentle hiss of the burner keeping the wax warm, with the breathing of the workshop itself. After completing the pour, the candlemaker sets down the ladle with careful precision and finally looks up. Their eyes meet yours across the workshop. Their dark eyes, brown or perhaps deep gray, it's hard to tell in this light, but they're warm, kind, knowing. Eyes that see more than just surface, that perceive not just that you're there but why you're there, what you need, what you're seeking even if you can't articulate it yourself. They don't seem surprised to see you. If anything, they seem expectant. As if they knew someone would arrive tonight, even if they didn't know specifically who. They nod once, a small gesture of acknowledgement, of welcome, and then gesture toward a tall stool near the workbench. An invitation. Come closer. Sit. Stay. Watch. You move forward slowly, reverently, not wanting to disturb the atmosphere of focused creation that fills this space. Your footsteps on the wooden floor are soft but audible in the quiet. You settle onto the stool, which is positioned at an angle that allows you to see the workbench, the candlemaker, and much of the workshop itself. A perfect vantage point. Clearly this stool has been placed here intentionally, for visitors who come seeking, what? Knowledge? Magic? Peace? Perhaps all three. The candlemaker returns to their work without speaking. Their hands reach for a collection of small bottles lined up on the bench, each one containing what looks like colored powder or perhaps crushed petals or maybe ground gemstones. It's hard to tell. They select one bottle. The powder inside is deep midnight blue, and measure out a tiny amount with a miniature spoon, adding it to a separate container of molten wax. The moment the blue powder touches the wax itself transforms. It doesn't just turn blue, it begins to glow, to shimmer, to hold light in a way that ordinary wax never could. And within that blue glow, you can see tiny stars appearing and disappearing, like looking into a night sky in miniature, like holding infinity in a ladle. The candlemaker stirs it gently, 3 times clockwise, you count, then once counterclockwise, and the stars stabilize, finding their pattern, settling into a slow dance within the wax. You realize you've been holding your breath. You let it out slowly, quietly, not wanting to disturb this moment of creation, this small act of magic being performed with such casual mastery. The workshop seems to breathe around you. The candles flicker in unison, as if responding to some signal you can't perceive. The scent shifts slightly. Now you smell something new, something that wasn't there before. Night blooming jasmine. Midnight gardens. The particular sweetness of darkness that isn't frightening but inviting, that promises rest and dreams and transformation. And you understand, you've found what you were looking for. This workshop. This candlemaker. This moment. Whatever brought you here, intuition or fate or simple luck, it was right. You're exactly where you need to be. The candlemaker works with the midnight blue wax for several more moments, testing its consistency by lifting the ladle and watching how the wax flows back into the pot, like silk, like liquid night, catching the light from the surrounding candles and throwing it back transformed. Satisfied, they reach for a mold, different from the first one. This one is tall and slender, shaped like a spiral, its interior carved with tiny symbols that you can just barely make out. Ancient symbols, perhaps. Or maybe they just look ancient because of the way the candlelight plays across them. The candlemaker begins to pour. The sound is different this time, softer, more intimate. The wax fills the spiral mold slowly, following its curves, its natural flow guided by gravity and the skilled tilt of the candlemaker's wrist. As the wax rises in the mold, you can see those tiny stars within it still moving, still dancing their slow celestial dance. The candlemaker sets down the pot and reaches for another small bottle, this one filled with what looks like silver dust, fine as pollen, catching light like ground moonbeams. They open the bottle carefully, using just their fingertips to sprinkle the smallest amount over the surface of the still liquid wax in the mold. The silver dust doesn't sit on top, it sinks, slowly, leaving trails of light behind it like falling stars, like wishes being made, like hope descending into darkness to create beauty. You watch, mesmerized, as the silver threads weave through the blue, creating patterns that seem almost intentional, almost intelligent, as if the wax itself knows what it wants to become. The candlemaker finally speaks. Their voice is soft, textured like aged paper, warm like the wax they work with. Not masculine or feminine, but something beyond gender, something that simply is, the voice of someone who's spent so long in solitude and contemplation that they've become more essence than identity. That one will burn blue for sorrow, they say, gesturing to the spiral mold. But not the heavy sorrow that crushes. The gentle sorrow that acknowledges loss, that honors what was, that allows healing. The silver will catch tears and turn them to light. They glance at you, checking to see if you understand, if you're following. You nod, not trusting your voice yet, not wanting to break the spell of this moment with clumsy words. The candlemaker seems satisfied with your silence and continues. Each candle knows its purpose, they say, returning their attention to the workbench. Not because I tell it what to be, but because the materials themselves carry wisdom. The beeswax remembers summer fields and the work of bees. The botanicals remember the soil they grew in, the sun that fed them, the hands that harvested them. The colors remember emotions, remember feelings, remember the human experiences they've witnessed across centuries. They reach for a different pot, this one containing wax that's pale pink, like the inside of a seashell, like the blush of dawn, like hope itself made tangible. This one is rose wax, the candlemaker explains, stirring it gently. Made with rose petals gathered at first light, when the dew is still on them. It remembers love, not the desperate, grasping kind, but the gentle kind. The kind that gives without demanding. The kind that endures. They pour this pink wax into a round mold, smooth and simple, no decorations or symbols. As the wax fills the space, you see something remarkable. Tiny petals appear within it, suspended as if frozen in time, their delicate shapes visible through the translucent wax like flowers pressed between pages of a book. The candlemaker reaches for their tools, an array of small implements laid out on a cloth beside the workbench. There are tiny spatulas and sculpting tools, thin metal rods with differently shaped ends, small brushes, and things you don't have names for, specialized instruments created for this specific craft, probably made by the candlemaker themselves for purposes only they understand. They select a fine-pointed tool, almost like a stylus, and begin to work on a candle that's already hardened, one that's been sitting to the side of the workbench. The candle is white, or what you thought was white, but as the candlemaker works, you realize it's actually translucent, like frosted glass, like ice, like moonlight solidified. With absolute precision, they carve into the wax's surface. Not deeply, just enough to create texture, to add intention, to mark it with meaning. The sound of the tool against wax is incredibly soothing, a soft scratching, rhythmic and meditative, like rain on a window, like sand shifting, like time itself being given physical form. You watch the patterns emerge, spirals and crescents, dots that might be stars or might be seeds, lines that flow and curve like water or wind or the invisible currents of energy that move through all things. Symbols help, the candlemaker murmurs, so quietly you almost miss it. Not because the candles need them to work, they'd work regardless, but because humans need them. We need to see intention made visible. We need to know that someone cared enough to mark this wax with meaning, to spend time making it beautiful as well as functional. They set down the carving tool and pick up a brush, small, with bristles so fine they're almost invisible. They dip it into a tiny pot of what looks like liquid gold, not paint, you realize, but actual gold, ground so fine it's become suspended in some kind of oil or medium. With the brush, they trace the carved lines they've just made, filling the tiny grooves with gold that catches the candlelight and amplifies it, makes the symbols glow as if lit from within. The effect is stunning. What was a simple white candle has been transformed into something that looks ancient and precious, something that belongs in a temple or a palace, something worthy of marking important moments, sacred occasions, transitions that matter. That one is for new beginnings, the candlemaker says, setting the brush aside and examining their work with a critical eye. For someone standing at a threshold, ready to step through but afraid. The gold reminds them that what they carry from their old life, the lessons, the love, the growth, isn't left behind. It comes with them, transformed, made precious by having been experienced. They look at you then, really look at you, and you have the uncomfortable but not unpleasant sensation that they're seeing through your surface to something deeper. To the reasons you're here. To the thresholds you're standing at in your own life. To the fears and hopes you carry that you haven't named even to yourself. Would you like to try? The candlemaker asks suddenly. Our eyes widen. You? Make a candle? You have no skill, no training, no knowledge of how any of this works. But the candlemaker is already moving, already gathering materials, already making space at the workbench for you. Come, they say gently. It's simpler than you think. And the candles are forgiving. They know when someone approaches them with respect and honest intention. They'll work with you. You rise from your stool, your legs slightly stiff from sitting still for so long, and move closer to the workbench. The candlemaker positions you directly in front of the work surface and places a small pot of wax on a burner, a fresh pot, just for you. First, we choose the base, they say. This is pure beeswax. You can smell the honey in it, yes. You nod. The scent is strong here, sweet and clean, making you think of summer days and lazy afternoons and the drowsy buzz of bees working in gardens. Good. Beeswax is the foundation of nearly everything I make. It burns clean, holds scent well, and has a natural affinity for magic, probably because bees themselves are magical creatures, architects and alchemists working in harmony with flowers and sun. The candlemaker shows you how to test the wax's temperature, not with a thermometer but with your intuition, watching how it moves, how it pours, how light passes through it. Too hot and it's thin as water, agitated, almost angry. Too cool and it's sluggish, reluctant to flow. But at the right temperature, it moves like honey, like silk, like liquid gold finding its natural rhythm. Now, they say, gesturing to the array of small bottles containing colored powders, choose a color. Don't think too hard. Let your hand choose. Let your instinct guide you. Your hand hovers over the bottles, uncertain. There are so many. Cobalt blue and forest green, deep burgundy and pale lavender, sunshine yellow and coral pink, silver and gold, and colors that don't quite have names, that seem to shift as you look at them. Your fingers finally come to rest on one bottle, almost without your conscious decision, as if the bottle itself called to you. You lift it. The powder inside is a deep teal, like ocean depths, like the color of evening sky reflected in water, like something between blue and green that contains both and neither. Ah, the Candlemaker says, and something in their voice suggests approval, recognition, maybe even surprise. The color of transition, of change, of the moment between what was and what will be. Appropriate. They show you how to measure the powder. Just a pinch, they explain, a little goes a very long way, and how to add it to the wax. The moment the teal powder touches the golden wax, the transformation is startling. The entire pot blooms with color, shifting from gold to teal in a wave that spreads from the point of contact outward, like ripples on a pond, like color released into water, like magic happening in slow motion right before your eyes. And within the teal, you see movement. Shapes that might be fish or might be birds, might be waves or might be clouds, might be something else entirely, something that exists between elements, between states, between the definite and the possible. Stir it, the Candlemaker instructs. Gently. 3 times clockwise to bind the color to the wax, to seal the intention, to make it permanent. You take the wooden stirring rod they hand you, smooth, warm, worn by countless uses, and dip it into the wax. The resistance is pleasant, like stirring thick cream or honey. You move the rod in slow circles, once, twice, 3 times, and watch as the color deepens, stabilizes, becomes unified. Good, the Candlemaker murmurs. Now we choose a form. They present you with several molds, simple ones, they explain, for your first attempt. There's a cylinder, smooth and plain. A square that tapers slightly toward the top. A sphere that splits in half. And a shape that looks almost organic, like a river stone, smooth and irregular and perfect in its imperfection. Without hesitation, your hand reaches for the stone-shaped mold. It feels right, natural, like something that wasn't made but found, discovered, recognized. Beautiful choice, the Candlemaker says. That mold is special. I found the original stone on a beach at dawn, after a storm. It had been shaped by waves and time and the patient work of water on rock. I made a mold from it because I wanted to preserve that feeling, of something wild made smooth, of chaos made gentle, of transformation through persistent but not violent force. They help you position the mold, make sure it's stable, ensure it's ready to receive what you're about to create. Now, pour. Slowly. Let the wax find its way. Don't force it. Trust that it knows where to go. You lift the pot, it's heavier than you expected, the weight of liquid wax substantial, and begin to tip it over the mold. The teal wax flows out, catching the candlelight, seeming to glow from within, and you watch with held breath as it fills the stone-shaped cavity. The sound of pouring is just as the Candlemaker described, musical, rhythmic, meditative. You find yourself timing your breath to it, inhaling as you tip the pot, exhaling as the wax flows, inhaling as you pause, exhaling as you pour again. The mold fills slowly, the teal wax rising like a tide, covering the bottom, climbing the sides, reaching toward the top. Those shapes within the wax, the fish birds, the wave clouds, continue their slow dance, and you realize they're responding to the movement, to the pouring itself, as if your actions are directing them, guiding them, giving them purpose. When the mold is full, you set down the pot with shaking hands, not from exertion but from emotion. You've just created something. Something beautiful. Something that didn't exist before you made it. The Candlemaker places one hand briefly on your shoulder, a gesture of recognition, of acknowledgement, of understanding what this moment means. Now it must cool, they say softly. And while it cools, while the wax transforms from liquid to solid, while your intention becomes fixed in form, we wait. The Candlemaker guides you back to your stool and then busies themselves with other work, checking candles that are already cooling, adding wicks to molds that are ready, stirring pots to keep them at the right consistency. But even while working, they talk, their voice soft and continuous, filling the workshop with words that are half instruction, half meditation, half something else entirely. People think candles are simple, they say, reaching for a spool of cotton wick and cutting a length with small scissors. Wax and fire, light and heat. And on one level, that's true. But on another level, candles are portals. Thresholds. When you light a candle, you're not just creating light, you're creating a space between the physical and the ephemeral. The solid wax becomes liquid, becomes gas, becomes light. Matter transformed through fire into energy. It's alchemy. It's magic. It's the same transformation that happens in all of life, the solid becoming fluid, the fluid becoming air, the air becoming light. They thread the wick through a finished candle, a pillar in deep amber, its surface smooth as glass, and secure it with practiced efficiency. The candles I make here, they're not just for light. They're for intention, for marking moments, for creating atmosphere that allows transformation to happen more easily. The colors respond to emotion because emotion is energy, and energy affects matter. It's all connected, all part of the same fabric. You watch them work, mesmerized by the efficiency of their movements, the economy of motion that comes from years of practice. Nothing is wasted, not movement, not material, not time. Everything serves a purpose. Everything contributes to the whole. Your candle, the Candlemaker continues, glancing at the stone-shaped mold where your creation cools, will burn teal for transition, for change, for the courage to move between states. When you light it, when you need it, it will remind you that change is natural. That transformation is not only possible but inevitable. That what feels like chaos is often just the beginning of a new pattern emerging. Time passes in the workshop differently than it passes outside. You're not sure how long you've been sitting here. 30 minutes? An hour? 2 hours? The candles burn steadily, their flames unwavering, marking time without demanding you pay attention to it. Finally, the Candlemaker moves to your mold and tests it gently with one finger. Ready, they announce. They show you how to unmold the candle, carefully, patiently, easing it out without rushing, respecting the form it's taken, honoring the transition from liquid to solid that's now complete. And there it is. Your candle. Shaped like a river stone, smooth and irregular, its teal color deep and rich and alive with those swimming flying shapes still visible within the wax. It's beautiful. It's yours. You made it. The candlemaker holds it up to the light, examining it from all angles, and then nods with satisfaction. Well made, they say. The color is true. The form is clean. The wax is clear, no bubbles, no imperfections. It will burn well. It will serve its purpose. They place it in your hands, and the wax is still slightly warm, still holding the memory of being liquid, of being shaped, of being transformed. Before you light it, the candlemaker says, you should mark it with your intention. Not carved symbols necessarily, unless you feel called to that, but at the very least, hold it and think clearly about what you want it to remind you of. What transformation are you moving through? What change are you calling in? What courage do you need to find? You close your eyes, holding the candle in both hands, feeling its weight, its warmth, its presence. And you think about your life, your fears, your hopes, about the thresholds you're standing at, about the changes you're afraid of but know are necessary, about the person you are and the person you're becoming. You open your eyes. The candlemaker is watching you with that knowing look, that gentle understanding that sees without judging, that perceives without demanding explanation. Good, they say simply. It knows now. It will remember. The candlemaker sets your teal candle carefully on a small wooden tray and gestures for you to bring it to a clear space on a side table, away from the workbench, away from the active work area, to a spot that seems designated for observation, for witnessing, for experiencing what candles do when they fulfill their purpose. Would you like to light it? The candlemaker asks. Not necessary. You can take it home unlit, save it for when you truly need it. But there's something to be said for seeing a candle's first flame, for witnessing what you've made come alive for the first time. You nod. Yes. You want to see it lit. You need to know what you've created, how it burns, what light it casts into the world. The candlemaker hands you a long match, not the paper kind from a book, but a proper wooden match, substantial and purposeful, the kind that lights with authority and burns steadily. They show you how to strike it against the special strip on the side of an old matchbox, rough, textured, designed for this exact purpose. The match catches with a soft whoosh and a bloom of sulfur scent that quickly fades. The flame settles, steady and bright, dancing slightly at the tip of the wooden stick. Before you touch flame to wick, the candlemaker says softly, pause. Take a breath. Remember what you're doing isn't just lighting a candle. You're activating intention. You're giving life to what was dormant. You're saying, yes, I'm ready for this transformation. Yes, I accept this change. Yes, I welcome what comes next. You do as instructed. You pause, you breathe, you acknowledge the weight of this small moment that's somehow not small at all. Then, slowly, you bring the match to the wick of your teal candle. The moment the flame touches the wick, something extraordinary happens. The wick catches immediately, no hesitation, no false starts, as if it's been waiting for this moment, eager to fulfill its purpose. The flame blooms upward, and for just a second, it burns pure gold, the color of natural fire, the color of heat and light and transformation. But then, the color shifts. The flame begins to pulse with teal, the same deep ocean sky color as the wax itself. Not the whole flame, the base remains gold, anchored in the natural world, in the physics of burning. But the upper portion, where the flame reaches toward the ceiling, toward possibility, toward the future, that part glows teal, luminous and otherworldly and impossibly beautiful. You gasp softly. You can't help it. The Candlemaker smiles, that knowing smile that suggests they never doubted this would happen, that they've seen this miracle countless times but still appreciates it, still honors it, still allows themselves to be moved by it. Watch the flame, they say quietly. Really watch it. Don't just see it, observe it. Notice how it moves. You lean closer, careful not to let your breath disturb the flame, and you watch. Really watch. The teal portion of the flame doesn't just burn steadily. It pulses. It shifts. And within it, you can see those shapes again, the fishbirds, the wave clouds, the transitional forms that exist between states. They swim upward through the flame, rising on currents of heat, dissolving as they reach the tip and becoming smoke, becoming air, becoming nothing and everything simultaneously. Every candle speaks a different language, the Candlemaker says, settling onto a stool beside you, their own attention focused on the flame you've brought to life. Some burn steady and calm, offering reliable light without variation. Those are for grounding, for stability, for when you need to feel anchored in the present moment. They gesture to a candle burning nearby, a thick pillar in deep burgundy, its flame unwavering, strong, constant. Others flicker and dance, their flames restless, curious, exploring. Those are for creativity, for inspiration, for when you need to remember that not all movement is chaos, sometimes it's just energy looking for expression. Another gesture, this time toward a cluster of thin tapers, their flames bobbing and weaving like flowers in a breeze, like thoughts in an active mind. And some. They turn back to your candle. Some burn with a rhythm, a pulse, an intention. Those are the transformation candles. The ones that mark change, that acknowledge you're in process, that remind you that what feels uncertain right now is actually movement, progress, becoming. You watch your flame pulse, bright teal, then softer, then bright again, and you feel it resonate with something inside you. With your own heartbeat, maybe. Or with some deeper rhythm you're not usually conscious of, but that's always there, always moving, always guiding you forward even when you're not sure where forward is. The color will respond to you, the Candlemaker continues. To your emotional state, to your energy, to what you're carrying in your heart. When you're uncertain, the teal will deepen, become more blue, the color of depth, of going inward, of seeking wisdom in quieter places. When you're ready to move, to act, to step through the threshold, it will brighten, become more green, the color of growth, of spring, of new life emerging from old soil. As if demonstrating their words, the candle's flame shifts. The teal deepens to azure, to sapphire, to the blue of deep ocean trenches and midnight skies. It's responding to your uncertainty, you realize. To the part of you that's afraid of change, that wants to hold on to what's familiar even when what's familiar no longer serves you. The Candlemaker notices your recognition. Don't fight it, they say gently. The candle isn't judging you. It's mirroring you. Showing you what's true so you can see it clearly, acknowledge it, work with it. Fear of change is natural. Human. The candle doesn't ask you to not feel it, just to see it, to notice it, to understand that it's there. You take a breath, deep and slow, and as you exhale, as you release some of that fear tension you didn't even know you were holding, the flame shifts again. The blue lightens. Green begins to emerge at the edges. Teal returns, balanced, the color of transition rather than resistance. There, the candlemaker says with satisfaction, "You're learning its language already. And it's learning yours." By the time this candle burns down, and it will, over hours or days or weeks, depending on how often you light it, you'll have had a whole conversation with it. About who you were when you made it, who you're becoming while you burn it, and who you'll be when its light finally goes out and you're ready to make or acquire a new candle for whatever comes next. They stand and move back to the workbench, giving you privacy with your candle, with your flame, with your transformation. But they continue to speak, their voice carrying across the workshop, threading through the space between you. People used to understand candles better, the candlemaker says, beginning work on something new. You can't see what from where you sit, but you can hear the familiar sounds of their craft. Before electric light, before we could banish darkness with the flip of a switch, people had relationships with flame. They knew it intimately. They understood that light is precious, that it requires tending, that it doesn't simply exist, it must be fed, maintained, honored. You hear the sound of wax being poured. The soft glug 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 that's become so familiar, so soothing over the course of this evening. When you had to light candles every evening, when you had to make them or buy them carefully because they represented resources, animal fat or precious beeswax, wicks that had to be prepared, time and skill and care, you didn't take light for granted. You watched the flames. You noticed when they burned high or low, bright or dim. You learned to read them, to understand what they were telling you about the air in your home, the weather outside, the quality of the materials used, the state of your own heart. You hear the sound of stirring, rhythmic, meditative. The candlemaker's words keeping time with the movement of their hand. We've lost that relationship, they continue. In gaining convenience, we lost intimacy. In banishing darkness completely, we forgot what it means to sit with a single flame, to be present with its small light, to understand that limitation can be a gift because it teaches us to pay attention, to notice, to be grateful for what we have rather than always reaching for more. You find yourself nodding, though they can't see you. You understand what they mean. You feel it. The way your teal candle has captured your complete attention, the way watching its flame has quieted your mind, the way this simple act of sitting with light has become profound. The candlemaker appears beside you again, this time carrying a small cloth bag, the kind drawstring pouches that might hold dice or coins or other small treasures. For you, they say, offering it. You take it, feeling something inside shift and settle. You loosen the drawstring and look within. Matches. Not ordinary matches, but beautiful ones, long wooden sticks with deep blue tips, each one somehow special, intentional, different from anything you'd find in a store. For lighting your candle when you need it, the candlemaker explains. Regular matches will work, of course. But these are made here, in the workshop. The tips contain some of the same powders I use in the candles, just enough to make the act of striking the match feel intentional, ritualistic, different from simply turning on a light switch. You draw one match out, examining it. The wood is smooth, well made. The blue tip catches the light. You can smell something faintly sweet, faintly herbal, coming from the bag. When you strike these matches, the candlemaker continues, they'll smell of lavender for a moment before the sulfur scent arrives. It's subtle, but it's there. A tiny gift. A small reminder that even the tools we use to create light can be made with care, with attention, with love. You tuck the match carefully back into the bag and pull the drawstring closed. Another treasure to take home. Another piece of this workshop to carry with you. The bag will hold about 30 matches, they say. Enough for many lightings. When you run out, you can return for more. Or you can use ordinary matches. The candle won't mind. It's not precious about these things. It just wants to burn, to serve its purpose, to help you through whatever transition you're navigating. You both sit in comfortable silence for a while, watching your candle burn, watching the other candles throughout the workshop burn, simply being present in this space full of light and warmth and the gentle magic of fire transforming wax into glow. Eventually, the candlemaker speaks again. Would you like to see the others? They ask. You look up, curious. The others. The other mood candles, they clarify. The ones that respond to different emotional states, different needs, different moments in a life. You've made a transition candle, which is beautiful and appropriate for where you are. But there are others. Dozens of others. Each one unique. Each one designed for a specific purpose. They stand and gesture for you to follow. You rise from your stool, leaving your candle burning. The candlemaker assures you it's safe, that they're watching, that no candle burns unattended in this workshop even when it appears to be alone. The candlemaker leads you to a section of the workshop you haven't examined closely yet, a series of shelves along the far wall, each shelf holding different candles, each candle glowing with its own unique light. As you approach, the effect is overwhelming. So many colors. So many flames. So many different energies present in one space, somehow coexisting without conflict, without cancelling each other out. Instead, they harmonize. They support each other. They create a collective atmosphere that's greater than any single candle could produce alone. This is the gallery, the candlemaker says with quiet pride, where finished candles wait for the people who need them. Your eyes move from candle to candle, drawn by different colors, different shapes, different qualities of light. There's a candle burning with soft rose gold light, gentle, warm, like sunrise on skin, like kindness made visible. For grief, the candlemaker says softly, noticing your attention. Not to eliminate it, grief deserves its space, its time, its honor, but to soften it. To remind the griever that love persists even when its object is gone, that memory is a form of continued connection, that the heart can hold both sorrow and joy simultaneously. A candle burning deep green, its flame steady and strong, like forest depths, like the color of life itself in its most concentrated form. For healing, the candlemaker continues. Physical or emotional, it doesn't discriminate. It burns with the patience of growing things, reminding us that healing isn't linear, isn't quick, isn't something we can force. We can only tend it, support it, allow it. A candle burning silver white, its light clean and bright, almost crystalline in its clarity. For anxiety, they explain. Not to eliminate it entirely. Anxiety sometimes carries useful information, but to clear away the excess, the static, the noise that keeps us from hearing what the anxiety is actually trying to tell us. It burns bright to cut through mental fog, to create space for clear thought, for discernment, for recognizing what's real fear versus what's just fear of fear. A candle burning deep purple, rich and luxurious, its flame dancing with what looks like tiny sparks of gold. For dreams, the candlemaker says with a slight smile. To burn beside the bed when you want to remember your dreams, when you want to access the wisdom your unconscious mind carries, when you want to bridge the gap between waking and sleeping consciousness. The gold sparks are crushed mica. They catch light and throw it back as dreams catch experience and throw it back transformed. You move slowly along the gallery, taking in each candle, each color, each purpose. There are so many. More than you could possibly catalogue in one visit. More than you could hold in your memory all at once. But certain ones call to you. Draw your attention. Make you pause and really look. A candle burning soft coral, like the inside of certain shells, like the color of gentle sunset reflected on clouds. For loneliness, the Candlemaker says. Not to make it go away. Sometimes we need to be alone, need to feel that loneliness fully so we understand what we're actually lonely for. But to make it companionable. To make solitude feel chosen rather than inflicted. To remind us that being alone is not the same as being abandoned, that we can be our own good company. A candle burning bright yellow gold, like concentrated sunlight, like joy made visible. For when you've forgotten how to be happy, they say simply. For when depression has made everything gray, when you can't remember what joy feels like, when you need a reminder that light exists even when you can't feel it. It doesn't force happiness, that would be cruel and impossible, but it offers hope. It says, not today, perhaps, but someday. Light exists. You will feel it again. A candle burning in shifting colors, blue to green to violet to blue again, never settling, always in motion. For the confused, the Candlemaker says. For when you don't know what you feel, what you want, what you need. For when everything is mixed up and tangled and you can't find the thread that will help you unravel it all. This candle doesn't provide answers, that's not its purpose, but it validates the confusion. It says, yes, it's complicated. Yes, you're in process. Yes, that's okay. You don't have to have it all figured out right now. You realize you could spend hours here. Days, maybe. Examining each candle, learning its purpose, understanding the nuances of each color and flame and intention. But the Candlemaker gently guides you back toward the workbench, back toward your stool, back toward the teal candle you made that's still burning with its patient, pulsing light. You'll come back, they say, and it's not a question but a statement of fact. When you need a different candle for a different moment. When your transition is complete and you're ready for whatever comes next. When someone you love needs a candle and you don't quite know what they need but you trust that coming here, bringing them, letting them see and choose, that will be enough. You settle back onto your stool, and the Candlemaker returns to their work at the bench. The workshop settles back into its rhythm, the soft sounds of craft, the gentle glow of hundreds of flames, the scent of wax and herbs and ancient magic made new. Outside the window, you notice there's a small window near the ceiling, round like a porthole. The sky has fully darkened. Night has arrived while you've been here, time passing in that strange workshop way where minutes feel like hours and hours feel like minutes. The Candlemaker works quietly, occasionally humming, wordless melodies that might be songs or might just be the sound of contentment, of someone fully engaged in their purpose, fully present with their craft. And you sit with your candle, watching its flame, feeling its warmth, grateful for this moment, this space, this person who knows how to transform wax and fire and intention into something that heals, that helps, that honors the complexity of being human and trying to navigate a life full of transitions and transformations and constant change. You're not sure how long you've been sitting with your candle when the candlemaker speaks again, breaking the comfortable silence. There's something else I want to show you, they say, setting down the tool they've been using, a small knife for trimming wicks, you think. Something not everyone sees. Not because it's secret exactly, but because, well, because not everyone is ready to see it. Or needs to see it. But you. They look at you with that penetrating gaze. I think you might be ready. They move to a door you hadn't noticed before, set into the back wall, so dark and seamless with the wood that it's nearly invisible unless you know to look for it. The candlemaker produces a key from somewhere in their apron, old brass, ornate, the kind of key that belongs to fairy tales and ancient locks. The door opens with a soft creak, revealing darkness beyond. But the candlemaker lifts one of the candles from the workbench, the silver-white one for anxiety, you remember, and carries it through the doorway. Its light pushes back the darkness, revealing stone steps leading downward. Come, they say simply, and though your rational mind suggests caution, something deeper in you, something that trusts this person, this place, this moment, tells you to follow. You rise from your stool, leaving your teal candle burning steadily on its tray, and follow the candlemaker through the door and down the stairs. The stairs are steep but not treacherous, carved from stone that's been worn smooth by centuries of footsteps. The air grows cooler as you descend, but not uncomfortably so. It's the coolness of earth, of being underground, of being held by stone and soil rather than exposed to air and sky. It smells different here too, less of beeswax and herbs, more of mineral and age, of spaces that exist outside of normal time. At the bottom of the stairs, the candlemaker pauses, allowing you to catch up, and then moves forward into a chamber. It's not large, perhaps the same size as the workshop above, but it feels more expansive somehow, the way underground spaces often do, their boundaries uncertain in the limited light. The candlemaker's single candle casts moving shadows, makes the space seem alive, breathing. And then they begin lighting other candles, many other candles, that are stationed around the room in sconces and holders, on shelves and ledges. With each flame that catches, more of the space is revealed. The walls are lined with shelves. But these shelves don't hold candles ready for sale or materials for making. They hold something else entirely. Boxes. Hundreds of small wooden boxes, each one labeled, each one containing, what? This, the candlemaker says, their voice reverent in this underground space, is the memory vault. You step closer to the nearest shelf, squinting to read the labels on the boxes in the flickering light. Each label bears a name and a date. Some recent, some decades old. Some, you can barely believe it, from a century or more ago. The handwriting varies, suggesting different candlemakers over the years, a lineage of artisans passing this tradition from one to the next. When someone commissions a special candle, the candlemaker explains, moving between the shelves with familiar ease, clearly knowing exactly where everything is despite the seeming chaos. A candle for a very specific memory or moment they want to preserve. I make two. One for them to burn, to experience, to use as they need. And one for here. For keeping. For remembering. They select a box, seemingly at random, though you suspect nothing this person does is truly random, and bring it to a small table in the center of the room. The box is old, the wood darkened with age, the label written in faded ink, Margaret Hastings, June 14, 1897, wedding day. The candlemaker opens the box carefully. Inside, nestled in velvet, is a candle. Small, no bigger than your thumb, pristine white with what looks like tiny pearls embedded in the wax. Margaret came to my predecessor, several predecessors ago, actually, on the morning of her wedding, the candlemaker says softly. She wanted a candle that would capture that day. Not just the ceremony, not just the celebration, but the feeling. The joy and terror of promising yourself to another person. The hope and uncertainty. The profound sense of before and after, of crossing a threshold that can never be uncrossed. They lift the candle from its box, holding it up to the light of the other candles burning around the room. She burned her candle on her first anniversary, and her 10th, and her 25th. Every significant anniversary, she would light it, just for a moment, and remember. Remember who she was that day. Remember the promises she made. Remember the person she married, the life she chose, the journey she committed to. The candlemaker sets Margaret's candle carefully back in its box and returns it to its place on the shelf. This one, they say, selecting another, was made for a soldier leaving for war. 1943. He wanted something that would remember home. That would hold the smell of his mother's kitchen, the sound of his sister's laugh, the feeling of safety he'd always known in the small house where he grew up. The box opens. The candle inside is pale blue, modest, unadorned. But even from where you stand, you can smell it, something like bread baking, something like lavender sachets, something impossibly nostalgic and specific. He carried his candle through the war, the candlemaker continues. Never burned it. Was saving it for when he came home. But he didn't. Their voice trails off for a moment. He didn't come home. His sister did, though. Years later. Brought his candle back. Asked if I would keep it here, with the other memories. Said she couldn't bear to burn it, couldn't bear to let it go, but couldn't bear to keep it either. So now it rests here. Remembered. Honored. Still holding the home he carried with him across an ocean, into battle, into whatever came after. You feel tears prickling at your eyes. The weight of all these preserved moments, all these captured feelings, all these pieces of lives lived and loved and lost. This is why I do this work, the candlemaker says, not looking at you but at the shelves, at the hundreds of boxes, at the countless memories preserved in wax and wick. Not just to make pretty candles, not just to sell light, but to honor the fact that human moments matter, that feelings deserve to be remembered, that the small, private, personal experiences that make up a life, they're important, they're sacred, they should be tended. The candlemaker moves through the memory vault, selecting boxes seemingly at random, telling you their stories. A candle made for a child's first day of school, pale yellow, shaped like a book, inscribed with tiny letters. For courage, the candlemaker says. For stepping into the unknown. A candle made for someone's last day, deep purple, almost black, but shot through with veins of gold. For death, they explain simply. For acknowledging that endings are also part of the cycle, also deserve to be marked, also can be beautiful in their way. A candle made for a wedding that never happened. The bride changed her mind 3 days before. Soft pink fading to grey. She asked me to keep this one, the candlemaker says. Said she wanted to remember that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is say no. Sometimes choosing yourself is the right choice, even when it hurts, even when it disappoints others. A candle made for a birth. Twins, both healthy, both perfect. Bright green, bursting with life. 2 wicks, burning as one. Still burning theirs, every birthday, the candlemaker says with a smile. They're 17 now. Don't know how much longer they'll want a candle from their parents, but for now, the tradition continues. Each story is a life. Each candle is a moment frozen, preserved, remembered. And you begin to understand the true depth of what the candlemaker does here. This isn't just craft. This is witness. This is service. This is holding space for human experience in all its complexity, all its beauty, all its pain. Would you like to make one? The candlemaker asks suddenly. A memory candle? Something to capture this night, this moment, this experience of coming to the workshop for the first time. You blink, surprised. I thought those were commissioned. That people came specifically asking for them. Usually, the candlemaker agrees. But sometimes I offer. When someone seems like they'd benefit from having a memory preserved. When I sense that this moment, right now, is significant enough to deserve marking, to deserve remembering. They're already moving toward the stairs, assuming your answer is yes, trusting that you understand the gift being offered. You follow them back up into the workshop, where your teal transition candle still burns steadily, its flame pulsing with that patient rhythm, its light casting gentle shadows around the space. The candlemaker begins gathering materials, a fresh pot for wax, a new selection of color powders, a different set of molds. Smaller molds this time, you notice. Memory candles are modest, personal, meant to be held in one hand, lit briefly rather than burned for hours. Close your eyes, the candlemaker instructs. Think about tonight. About finding the door to the workshop. About stepping inside. About the smells and sights and sounds. About making your first candle. About watching it burn. About everything you've felt, everything you've learned, everything you've experienced in this space. You close your eyes and let the memories of the evening wash over you. It's strange. It feels like you've been here for days, like you've lived a whole lifetime in these few hours, like you've been transformed in ways you won't fully understand until much later. Now, the candlemaker says softly, without thinking too hard, without analyzing or judging, what color is this memory? What color is tonight? Your hand reaches out, eyes still closed, trusting intuition rather than sight, and finds a bottle. You don't know which one. You don't know what color it holds. But it feels right in your hand, feels like it chose you as much as you chose it. Perfect, the candlemaker murmurs. You open your eyes and look at the bottle. The powder inside is deep amber, like honey lit from within, like autumn afternoon light, like warmth made visible, like the color of this entire evening distilled into pigment. The candlemaker is already preparing wax, pure beeswax again, that foundation of nearly everything they make. They heat it, test it, bring it to the perfect consistency. Add the color, they say, offering you the bottle. As much as feels right. There's no wrong amount. Trust yourself. You measure, not with your mind but with something deeper, and add what feels like the right amount of amber powder to the golden wax. The transformation is immediate and stunning. The wax blooms into deep, rich amber, like captured sunlight, like bottled warmth, and within it you see movement again. Not fish or birds this time, but something else. Tiny sparks, like fireflies, like embers, like the memory of flame living within the wax even before it's been lit. Now the form, the candlemaker says, presenting a small mold, round, simple, the size of a plum. Memory candles are always small. Meant to be held, not displayed. Meant to be lit briefly and rarely, just when you need to remember. When the world has made you forget what peace feels like, what stillness feels like, what it means to be in a space where time moves differently and magic is real. You pour the amber wax into the small round mold, watching it flow, watching those firefly sparks dance and settle, watching liquid become solid in slow motion. The candlemaker adds something while the wax is still liquid. You don't see what, their hands moving too quickly, too subtly. But you smell it immediately. Beeswax, yes, but also cedar from the workshop beams, and herbs from the hanging bundles, and something else. The smell of old wood and older stone. The smell of the memory vault below. The smell of this place itself, its essence captured and added to your memory candle so that whenever you light it, you'll be transported back here, to this evening, to this transformation. While it cools, the candlemaker says, "Write something." For the box. They hand you a small card and a pen. The pen is unusual, old-fashioned, the kind you have to dip in ink. The ink bottle sits nearby, its contents deep amber, matching your candle perfectly. You think for a moment, pen hovering over paper, then write. The night I learned that light is more than illumination. That candles are prayers made physical. That transformation is always possible. That there are still people in the world who tend to magic, who remember how to see what matters, who hold space for small miracles. The night I was seen. The night I made light with my own hands. The night I found the workshop. You sign it with your name and today's date. The ink dries quickly, settling into the paper, becoming permanent. The candlemaker reads what you've written and nods slowly, approvingly. Yes, they say simply. That's exactly right. The memory candle has cooled enough. The candlemaker unmolds it with practiced ease, and there it is, small and perfect, amber and glowing even before it's lit, those firefly sparks visible within the wax like stars in a honey-colored sky. They fetch a wooden box from a drawer, small, unadorned, just the right size. They line it with velvet, also amber, also perfect, and place the candle inside. Your card is tucked into a slot in the lid. One for you, the candlemaker says, and one for the memory vault. You realize they've made two. While you were writing, while you were lost in memory and thought, their hands were working, creating a duplicate of your candle, ensuring that this moment will be preserved in the archives below along with all the others. When you need to remember, they say, handing you your boxed candle, light it. Just for a minute or two. Let the scent bring you back here. Let the light remind you of this evening. Let the fireflies within the flame show you that magic is real, that transformation happened, that you're different now than you were when you walked through that door. You take the box carefully, feeling its weight, its warmth, its presence. Another treasure. Another talisman. Another piece of this impossible evening made tangible, made portable, made yours. The candlemaker takes the duplicate, your memory preserved for the vault, and you watch as they descend the stairs once more. You hear the soft sounds of a box being placed on a shelf, of a moment being added to the archive, of your experience becoming part of the workshop's ongoing story. They return, closing and locking the door behind them, and you both stand in the workshop's warm glow, surrounded by burning candles, surrounded by the evidence of countless transformations, countless memories, countless small miracles made manifest through wax and fire and intention. The candlemaker moves to where your teal transition candle still burns and gently blows it out. The flame disappears, but the scent remains, teal-colored smoke rising, carrying that ocean sky smell, that scent of change and courage and thresholds being crossed. You'll want to let it cool completely before you take it home, they say. And you'll want a way to carry it safely. They produce a cloth bag, similar to the one holding your matches but larger, with padding inside. They wrap your teal candle carefully, protecting it, ensuring it will survive the journey back to your regular life, back to wherever you came from, back to the world beyond the workshop door. They also hand you a small printed card, information you realize, instructions for caring for your candles, for burning them safely, for making them last as long as possible. But on the back of the card, written in the same hand that labeled the boxes in the memory vault, are simple directions: Street of 7 Lanterns, Fountain with the Sleeping Cat, Archway of Ivy, Door painted twilight blue, Sign of the Candle and the Star. For when you need to return, the candlemaker says. For when you're ready for a new candle, a new transformation, a new memory to preserve. For when someone you love needs what this place offers. The door is always here. I'm always here. This work continues, will continue, as long as someone needs it. They begin wrapping your memory candle box as well, though you protest. You want to carry that one in your hands, want to feel its presence, want to be aware of it every moment between here and home. The candlemaker smiles and allows you this, wrapping only the teal candle, letting you hold the memory box as you wish. Thank you, you say, and the words feel inadequate, too small to hold everything you're feeling. Gratitude, yes, but also wonder, transformation, recognition, belonging, magic. You're welcome, the candlemaker replies. Thank you for being open, for being present, for allowing the candles to teach you, for trusting what you couldn't explain or understand, for being willing to make light in the darkness, in whatever form that takes. They walk you to the door, that blue door that started this whole evening, that marked the boundary between ordinary life and this extraordinary space. The door opens, and cool night air rushes in, and beyond it you can see the cobblestone street, the gas lamps, the quiet buildings of the old quarter settling into sleep. You step through, your packages in your arms, your memory box clutched to your chest. You turn back one more time, wanting to see the workshop, wanting to commit it to memory one final time. The candlemaker stands in the doorway, framed by the golden light of hundreds of candles, their silver hair glowing, their expression peaceful and knowing and kind. Go gently, they say. Light your candles when you need them. Remember what you learned here. And come back when you're ready. The door closes softly. The latch clicks. And you're alone on the street, the workshop behind you, the world before you, and in your arms, proof that magic is real, that transformation is possible, that there are still people who tend to the small miracles that make life bearable, beautiful, sacred. You stand on the street for a moment, just breathing, just being, letting your eyes adjust to the dimmer light of the gas lamps after the brilliant glow of hundreds of candles. The cloth bag with your teal candle hangs from your shoulder, substantial and present. The small wooden box with your memory candle is held carefully in both hands, pressed against your chest like something precious, which it is. The bag of special matches is tucked safely in your pocket. The street looks different than it did when you arrived. Or perhaps you're different, and so everything else appears transformed. The buildings seem older, wiser, more patient. The cobblestones seem to hold stories in their worn surfaces. The gas lamps seem less like simple light sources and more like small acts of devotion. Someone, somewhere, tending to flame, ensuring that darkness is held back but not banished completely. You begin to walk, retracing your steps. Not hurrying. Not rushing back to your regular life. Taking your time. Savoring this liminal space, this threshold between the magical and the mundane, this opportunity to integrate what you've experienced before the world demands your attention again. You pass through the archway covered in ivy. In the darkness, you can't see the leaves clearly, but you can smell them, green and growing, alive even in the night, breathing out oxygen, performing their quiet alchemy of turning sunlight into life even when the sun has set. You pause at the fountain with the sleeping cat, or at least, you think it's the same fountain. In the darkness and with your changed perspective, everything seems both familiar and new. But yes, there's the cat. Still there, still sleeping, curled into an impossibly tight ball on the fountain's stone rim. You resist the urge to reach out and touch it, to feel the warmth of its fur, to connect with this small creature who's made the fountain its home. Let it sleep. Let it rest. Some things don't need to be disturbed, only witnessed and appreciated. The sound of water from the fountain is soft but constant, not the rush of pressure and spray, but the gentle trickle of water moving over stone, following gravity, doing what water does. Persistent. Patient. Inevitable. Like time itself, but kinder, more forgiving, willing to flow around obstacles rather than demanding they be removed. You cup one hand and catch some of the fountain's water, bringing it to your lips. It's cold and clean and tastes faintly of minerals, of stone, of the earth it traveled through to reach this place. It refreshes you, grounds you, reminds you that you have a body, that your body needs tending, that the physical and the spiritual are not separate but intimately, inextricably connected. You continue down the street of 7 lanterns, and this time you count them, really count them, paying attention, wanting to verify what you were told, what you trusted when you came searching for the workshop. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yes. 7 lanterns, each one different from the others. One is tall and elegant, its glass clear. Another is short and squat, its glass tinted amber. One hangs from an elaborate wrought iron bracket shaped like a dragon. Another sits on a simple pole, functional rather than decorative. 7 lanterns, 7 lights, 7 small flames pushing back the darkness, marking this street, making it navigable, making it safe for nighttime travelers like yourself who need to find their way through the old quarter's maze of narrow streets and unexpected turns. You wonder who tends these lanterns. Who lights them each evening and extinguishes them each dawn? Is it a city employee with a route and a schedule? Or is it someone like the Candlemaker, an artisan, a tender of flame, someone who understands that light is more than simple illumination, that fire is more than simple chemistry, that the act of lighting a lamp is a small prayer, a small defiance of darkness, a small declaration that humans will not surrender to night without a fight, but will instead meet it with flame and warmth and the determination to see, to witness, to remain present even when the sun has set? You like to imagine it's the latter. You like to think that somewhere in this city, someone walks these streets each evening with a long lighting pole, touching flame to wick, performing an ancient ritual that predates electricity by millennia, that will probably outlast electricity too, because some things are too fundamental to be replaced by convenience. The old quarter gives way gradually to newer streets. The cobblestones become pavement. The gas lamps become electric streetlights, harsh, bright, efficient, but somehow lonelier, less intimate than the flames you've left behind. But you find you're not jarred by the transition. You're protected somehow. The memory of the workshop surrounds you like a cloak, like a shield, like the gentle insistence that you don't have to surrender what you've found just because you're returning to ordinary space. You pass a late-night cafe, still open, its windows bright, people inside drinking coffee and wine, talking, laughing, being alive in their own way. Before tonight, you might have felt separate from them, isolated, convinced that everyone else knew some secret about how to be human that you'd never been taught. But now you understand, they have their own ways of finding light. Their own rituals, their own sanctuaries, their own candlemakers, whether literal or metaphorical. Everyone is seeking the same thing: warmth, connection, meaning, the sense that their life matters, that their moments deserve to be marked, that their transformations are real and important and worthy of witness. You smile at them through the window, not expecting them to see you, just offering goodwill, offering recognition of shared humanity, offering the understanding that we're all just trying to make our way through the darkness with whatever light we can create or find or borrow. One person near the window catches your eye and smiles back, a small moment of connection between strangers, a reminder that kindness is always possible, always available, always free to give and receive. Your own neighborhood announces itself gradually. Familiar buildings. Familiar streets. The route you walk every day without thinking, but tonight you're thinking, you're noticing, you're present to it in a way you haven't been in months, maybe years. You see things you've never noticed before. A window box on a third-floor balcony, filled with herbs, someone's small garden, someone's attempt to bring green growing things into their urban life. A mural on the side of a building, partially hidden by a dumpster, depicting birds in flight, someone's gift to the neighborhood, someone's insistence on beauty even in unlikely places. A cat, different from the fountain cat, this one orange and alert, watching you from a doorway, its eyes reflecting the streetlight, glowing like small moons, like tiny candles. The ordinary world is full of small wonders, you realize. You just forgot how to see them. You forgot how to be present enough, slow enough, quiet enough to notice. But the workshop has reminded you. The Candlemaker has taught you. Not through words, not through instruction, but through example, through the patient craft of paying attention, of treating each material with respect, of understanding that small things done with care are not small at all. You can carry this forward. You can remember this. You can practice this attentiveness in your daily life, not perfectly, not constantly, but when you remember, when you slow down enough, when you light your candles and let them remind you of what matters. Your building. Your door. Your key in the lock. Familiar resistance and give as the mechanism turns and releases. Inside, you climb the stairs or walk down the hall to your own door, your own space, your own small sanctuary. The hallway is quiet. Your neighbors are asleep or pretending to be. The building settles around you with the soft creaks and sighs that old structures make, conversations between wood and nail, between stone and mortar, between past and present. Your own door now. Your own key. The click of the lock. The swing of the door opening into your space, however large or small, however tidy or chaotic, However perfect or imperfect it might be, it's yours, and tonight you're grateful for it in a way you haven't been in a long time. You step inside and close the door softly behind you. Lock it. Lean against it for a moment, just breathing, just arriving, just being home. The transition is complete. You've traveled from the workshop back to your regular life. You've carried light across the threshold between worlds, between the magical and the mundane, between who you were and who you're becoming. You move through your space slowly, not turning on bright overhead lights. They would feel too harsh after the workshop's candlelight, too aggressive, too demanding. Instead, you use small lamps, dim switches, the gentle illumination that respects the night rather than trying to obliterate it. You find the perfect place for your candles, a small table near a window, where moonlight falls during certain hours, where you'll see them every day, where they can remind you of the workshop, of the Candlemaker, of what you learned about light and transformation and the magic that persists in a world that tries hard to forget it. You set down the cloth bag with your teal transition candle and carefully unwrap it. The candle has cooled completely now, its wax solid, its form permanent. The stone-like shape looks right here in your space, looks like it belongs, like it was always meant to be here. Beside it, you place the wooden box containing your memory candle. You open the lid briefly, just to see the amber glow one more time, to smell that captured essence of beeswax and cedar and the workshop itself. Then you close it gently, preserving it, saving it for when you truly need it, for when the world has made you forget and you need to remember. The bag of special matches goes in a drawer nearby, accessible but protected, ready for when you're prepared to light your candles, to activate the intentions they hold, to witness what you created with your own hands under the Candlemaker's patient guidance. You prepare for sleep, the ordinary rituals of ending a day, but tonight they feel different. More intentional. More conscious. As if the Candlemaker's attention to craft, their careful precision, their devotion to doing small things well has rubbed off on you, has reminded you that every action can be performed with care, with presence, with the understanding that how we do anything is how we do everything. You wash your face and brush your teeth with more awareness than usual. You change into comfortable clothes, feeling the texture of fabric, grateful for softness, for warmth, for the simple comfort of clothing designed for rest. You settle into bed, your own bed, familiar and welcoming, the mattress knowing the shape of you, the blankets holding the memory of your warmth from 1,000 previous nights. But before you let sleep claim you, you lie in the darkness and simply remember. You remember the blue door with the sign of the candle and star. You remember stepping into the workshop for the first time, overwhelmed by scent and warmth and light. You remember watching the Candlemaker work with those sure, practiced hands. You remember making your first candle, feeling the wax transform under your attention, watching color bloom from powder. You remember the gallery of mood candles, each one burning for a different purpose, each one tending to a different human need. You remember the memory vault beneath the workshop, all those preserved moments, all those honored experiences, all that evidence that human lives matter, that feelings deserve to be remembered, that the small and private and personal is actually vast and universal and sacred. You remember the Candlemaker themselves, their patient wisdom, their gentle teaching, their gift of seeing what you needed before you knew you needed it. You remember the way they spoke about their craft, about candles being more than light, about wax and fire being tools for transformation, for marking thresholds, for honoring the complexity of being human and trying to navigate a life full of change. And you realize, you've been given a gift tonight. Not just the candles, though those are precious, though you'll treasure them, though they'll serve you well in the days and weeks and months to come. But something more than that. You've been given a reminder, a permission, an invitation. The reminder that magic is real, that it persists in unexpected places, that there are still artisans in the world who tend to wonder, who remember how to see what matters, who hold space for transformation and healing, and the simple human need to be witnessed, to be seen, to have our experiences honored as important even when the wider world dismisses them as too small, too personal, too ordinary to merit attention. The permission to slow down, to pay attention, to be present with your own life rather than constantly rushing through it. The permission to mark your moments, to honor your transitions, to acknowledge that what you're experiencing right now, in this body, in this life, is real and important and worthy of being tended with the same care the candlemaker brings to their craft. The invitation to return. To seek out sanctuaries when you need them. To find the people and places that remind you of who you really are beneath all the noise and rush and demand. To remember that you don't have to do this alone, that there are others, artists and craftspeople and quiet magical beings, working in their own corners of the world to keep light alive, to tend to beauty, to offer what they can to anyone who finds their door. Your breathing has slowed now, deepened, your body settling into the approach to sleep. But your mind, quieter than usual, calmer than it's been in weeks, continues to hold the evening gently, continues to process what happened, continues to integrate the transformation. You think about the teal candle waiting on your table. About the moment, tomorrow or next week or whenever you're ready, when you'll strike one of those special lavender-scented matches and bring flame to wick and watch the teal light bloom in your space, pulsing with that rhythm that mirrors your heartbeat, reminding you that change is possible, that thresholds can be crossed, that who you are now is not who you have to remain forever. You think about the memory candle in its amber glory. About the moment, months from now, or years, whenever you most need it, when you'll open that wooden box and light that small candle and be immediately transported back to tonight, to the workshop, to the feeling of being completely present and completely held and completely transformed by gentleness. You think about the candlemaker, probably still working in their workshop right now, their hands moving with that practiced certainty, creating light for people they'll never meet, solving problems they'll never fully understand, tending to human hearts with beeswax and intention and ancient magic made new every single night. And you think about yourself, who you were when you started searching for the workshop hours ago, and who you are now, lying in your bed with candles waiting on your table and the memory of flame dancing behind your closed eyelids and the understanding that you've been changed, that something has shifted, that you're carrying light now in ways you weren't before. Sleep is very close now. You can feel it approaching like a gentle tide, and you don't resist it. You welcome it. You let it come. Your last conscious thoughts are not of worry or planning or the endless list of things you need to do tomorrow. They're not of regret about the past or anxiety about the future. They're simply gratitude. Gratitude for the stranger who told you about the workshop, whoever they were, wherever they are now. Gratitude for your own curiosity that made you search for it, that made you walk down unfamiliar streets, that made you open that blue door and step into the unknown. Gratitude for the candlemaker's generosity in teaching you, in letting you make your own candle, in showing you the memory vault and the gallery and the deep truth of their craft. Gratitude for the candles themselves, for being willing to be shaped, to hold intention, to carry light, to serve. Gratitude for this city that contains both the harsh bright world of commerce and hurry, and also quiet streets where gas lamps burn and workshops hide and magic persists. Gratitude for your own hands that made light tonight, that poured wax and chose colors and created something that didn't exist before you gave it form. Gratitude for this bed, This room, this small space of your own where you can rest and integrate and be gentle with yourself as you change. You're asleep now. Deeply, peacefully, restfully asleep. Your body finally, fully relaxed. Your mind finally, fully quiet. Your heart finally, fully at ease. And as you sleep, the candles on your table seem to glow slightly, even though they're not lit, as if they're holding light within them, as if the potential for illumination is always there, always ready, always waiting for the moment when you'll need it and reach for a match and bring flame to wick and watch magic bloom in your everyday space. In your dreams, you walk through fields of flowers that smell like beeswax and honey. You climb stairs made of light. You sit in a workshop where 1,000 candles burn and a patient teacher shows you how to transform the ordinary into the sacred, the mundane into the magical, the simple into the profound. And somewhere across the city, in that narrow street in the old quarter, behind a blue door with a sign of a candle and star, the candlemaker continues their work. Pouring wax, measuring colors, carving symbols, threading wicks, creating light for people they've never met, holding space for transformations they'll never witness, tending to the ancient art of turning fire and wax and intention into healing, into hope, into the small miracles that make life bearable and beautiful. They pause in their work for just a moment and smile, as if they can sense you sleeping peacefully miles away, as if they know their gift has been received, their teaching has landed, their candles are resting in a home where they'll be honored and used and allowed to fulfill their purpose. Then they return to their work. There's always more to do. Always more candles to make. Always more people who will find their way to the blue door, who will step into the workshop, who will learn what you learned tonight. That light is more than illumination, that transformation is always possible, that magic persists in patient hands that tend to small things with great love. Sleep well, dear maker of light. You found the candlemaker's secret workshop. You learned their art. You created your own flame. You carried light home. And tomorrow, whenever tomorrow comes, you'll wake different, softer, more present, more aware that the world contains both darkness and light, both the ordinary and the extraordinary, both the harsh bright rush of modern life and the quiet patient glow of candlelight in ancient workshops where magic is still practiced, still taught, still offered freely to anyone who seeks it. You'll wake knowing that you have tools now. Candles to light when you need them. Matches that smell of lavender. A memory preserved in amber wax. A transition candle that pulses with the rhythm of change. And most importantly, directions, written on a card, stored in your memory, back to the workshop whenever you need it. The blue door will be there. The candlemaker will be there. The workshop will be ready to welcome you back, to offer you new light for new transitions, to help you mark new memories, to remind you again and again that magic is real, that transformation is possible, that you are worthy of light, of care, of gentle tending as you navigate this complicated, beautiful, challenging, miraculous experience of being human. Rest now. Dream deeply. Let the night hold you gently. The candles are waiting. The light is patient. And when you're ready, when you truly need it, you'll strike a match, you'll touch flame to wick, and you'll remember everything. May you always find light in dark places. May you always remember that you can create it yourself. May you tend to your own flame with patience and care. And may you never forget the way to the workshop, where the candlemaker waits, where magic lives, where light is made by hand and given freely to all who need it.